Hello everybody, Caden here today with another episode of our Jurassic World Reborn park building series type thingamabob. You guys know what this is. Anyway, again, we're back after quite a break from this series, and today, as you've seen obviously from the thumbnail, the title, whatnot, we are building a big old mammoth enclosure building thingamabob, whatchamacallit type thing. Yeah. I can't you tell I'm so professional in making up names and introing videos. Just like incredible work, honestly. Couldn't have done or said it any better. Anyway, in keeping with the theme of this and our aquarium series with doing Arctic and winter themed enclosures, which I think I'm gravitating towards mostly because where I live, it's starting to get up to 90 plus degrees outside, so I kind of wish it was cold. Boy, do I wish it was cold outside right now. But yeah, anyway, we're building a big old building for the mammoths, and I think I said I was gonna do this a while ago, like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a big old mammoth enclosure, and this is that. And I think it ends up looking pretty good. Obviously, there were things I could have done to make it better and more interesting, but, well, as you'll notice, hopefully there's two videos that have gone up today. Basically, I ran out of time again, and that's kind of becoming the thing. I also kind of ran out of ideas towards the end of the build. Basically, I was just like, I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do with this. I think it does end up looking really good, and I think it's the most interesting of the builds we've done for this series, I'd say, aside from maybe the swamp, because I think the swamp, honestly, and I know I mentioned this in some of the series, right? Like, I talk about like, oh, you know, if there's one big takeaway from this series that, like, you know, I would use again and again, the further on this channel goes, whatever series we do in the future, I feel like the number one takeaway for this series is either going to be this building or it's going to be the swamp area, mostly just because both of them felt very unique. Speaking of which, I need to give credit where credit is due for this build. So of course, like, this build, right? This was somewhat inspired by my friend Innovative Pachyderm. His channel will hopefully be linked in the description if you guys want to go check him out. He does similar content to me, so lots of dinosaur stuff. And he's actually part of the dev team for Reborn, which is pretty cool. Go check him out. Go subscribe. You know, give him some love. But on one of his dinosaur series, he basically built a giant indoor mammoth enclosure. And maybe it had woolly rhinos in it as well. This was going to have the elasmotherium as well, but I felt like it wasn't big enough to have both, and I wasn't too keen on expanding this build out anymore, because this is a fairly massive build, in all honesty. I wasn't too keen on making it even larger and, like, you know, giving me way more work to do. But anyway, shout out to Ave, Innovative Pachyderm, basically where I got the idea for doing this. And it looks really cool. And also Loorikeet, who I got some inspiration for how I was going to do the inside of this build. So yeah, go check both of them out. Hopefully, I've remembered to link both their channels in the description, so you guys can go check them out. Both great YouTubers, do lots of good stuff. But anyway, back to what we're doing here. I was trying to figure out basically how I wanted to get the shape of this thing to work, and like I said, this build could have been way bigger, and it probably should have been a lot bigger. Like, it probably needed way more space. But the problem is, and for those of you who may have tried to do something like this before, there's a big difference. And actually, I mean, I'd say the biggest comparable thing would be my raptor house from our survival dinosaur series with fossils and archaeology, which, if you haven't seen, there's like 150 episodes almost of it, so why not go check it out? It's pretty good. But we built this giant raptor house, right? And one thing I noticed about building giant building enclosures is it is like 8 times the effort to make them. So you're very quickly incentivized to make much smaller enclosures because you're like, well, you know, like, well, crap, I have to build you know, like you already have to build something. Like, you know, you're building a lot of exhibits. When you're building lots of exhibits, there's lots of, at least if you're me, it's lots of terrain work, lots of rock work, lots of fence building. And then, you know, like your viewing areas as well. But then as soon as you turn it into a building, it now magnifies the amount of work because you have to enclose the thing. And you have to figure out like, okay, well, where's the lighting gonna be? Where's all this? Speaking of which, if you made it this far in the video, I'm just gonna tell you now, there's no shaders for the exhibit showcase, just because, well, as usual, shaders don't really look good with buildings, especially one that's got this much open space in it, that's this tall. It was really hard to get lighting to work here with shaders, so I just didn't throw shaders in. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so like building big building enclosures it's just a pain, especially when you're doing them for an animal this big. Obviously, I usually, if I'm doing like a thing like a project like this, usually I keep it to pretty small animals. I think the largest one before this that I ever built a building for would probably... Okay, well, I guess technically some of the aquariums are about this big on the Island Aquarium series, and I've definitely built bigger aquariums for sure, but I don't think those technically count because that's like a completely different build. But if we're talking just pure enclosures, I think the largest one I ever built was like a... Is it the Deinonychus one, actually? I'm trying to think. I want to say it was a polar bear exhibit, but I think it might actually be the Deinonychus exhibit from our dinosaurs, our Survival Dino series. Yeah, I think that's actually the case, isn't it? Yeah, it probably is. So yeah, that's... Yeah, basically, I don't usually build exhibits this big because one of the fun things with Minecraft is that you don't really have very powerful lighting sources. Now, if like I was playing Planet Zoo or something, this would be a lot easier to do because you can like edit. I believe you can edit. It's been a while since I've played it. I believe you can edit like the strength of certain lights, or you can just keep slapping lights together to get a stronger light. So you can really light up indoor enclosures really well and like caves and stuff. You can't do that in this game, which is really annoying, and I wish there was a way to fix that because you'll see in a few minutes probably, but like with this build in particular, it was really annoying because as soon as I put shaders on, I'm like, wow, this is so poorly lit. You know, I should probably have explained that, shouldn't I? The reason this is indoors, like this is meant to be an indoor exhibit, is because it's a mammoth, right? So, you know, I was like, oh, well, it's probably got to be cold, and this is a very temperate environment, or maybe even a tropical environment, all things considered, that the rest of the park is in. So I was like, you know, this is probably like somewhat like, you know, a penguin exhibit where it's indoors, you got snow blowers and snow machines and a ton of indoor cooling fans to really drop the temperature and stuff. So that's what I was going for, and you'll see that. We do lots of cool giant fans throughout the build, and I really like those. They were a lot of fun to do. But yeah, anyway, what was the point of this? What was I talking about? Man, my memory is just shot. My goodness, I actually cannot remember what I was talking about. Quality content that everyone loves to see. Oh, lighting. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, I didn't want to put tons of windows in it because I was thinking like, okay, I mean, generally I don't bother too much with realism in my builds because, you know, realism isn't the most important thing. You know, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know, it's fun to have things be realistic, but I'd always prefer functionality and fun to build and fun to look at over, you know, it being hyper-realistic builds. And I know that really bothers some people based on some of the comments I occasionally get. Yeah, it was like, you know, if you're in a giant building like this, right? Especially if, assuming, again, this park is in a somewhat temperate or tropical environment, you're gonna have a lot of sunlight. And especially in a big building like this, that sunlight is more than likely going to start heating things, particularly the building. And everything inside of the building. So if you're trying to keep the temperatures really low, what you're gonna end up having is a lot of very thick concrete walls with spacing in between the wall, like interior wall and the exterior wall, and you're not gonna have a lot of windows into the actual enclosure. That way, the cold air stays in and you don't really like have too much of a temperature difference. So I was like, okay, we'll try and do some realism here, basically. The problem with that then is, of course, you know, you can't light it really well, and that was really, really bothersome, but I mean, without shaders it's fine, and it led to other problems, namely just I couldn't, what was it, I couldn't, what is the word? I couldn't place as much snow as I wanted to because the lighting kind of prohibited me from that since it just melted it all, which was really annoying. But yeah, anyway, yeah, there's the giant roof tiles I threw in. I mean, that's basically every building I do right now is just giant roof tiles like that. I mean, it looks good. It has a very industrial zoo kind of look. I feel like industrial zoos. I feel like those words don't really go together. Although that could be kind of cool to make like a steampunk or cyberpunk themed zoo. Maybe I should do that at some point. We'll see. But yeah, here's the exhibit with shaders on, and now you can see why I didn't really want to do it with the shaders, because it's an incredibly dark exhibit, and I don't know, I felt like it was a bit too dark. I wanted it, you know, I kind of was trying to make some sort of like internal like sunlight source, and I just couldn't get that to work, and it really bothered me. But you know, it ends up working fairly well in the end, and the final exhibit does look pretty good. But yeah, you can see me placing in a bunch of extra snow here. I ended up covering up all the sea lanterns slash glowstone with carpet, with bushes, all sorts of little tricks just to try and hide them as much as possible. And then we do some big ceiling lights and stuff. But yeah, that's that. That's actually okay. I don't think I had watched the time lapse fully. There are some parts of this that actually don't look too bad with the shaders, I have to say. And there's the giant fans. I love these things. By the way, those are from Chisel, if you guys are wondering. But yeah, those fans look fantastic. I really love them. They really add to the feel of this, you know, being like a super, I was gonna say ventilated, but chilled room, I guess. I don't really know. I'm trying to think what the proper, how you would phrase that. I have no clue. Anyway, it just looks cool. And that's what matters. You know, at the end of the day, the exhibit only needs to look cool. I'm sure there's some people that be really annoyed with me saying that. Anyway, any hoozle. Yeah. What am I doing in this? Oh, I think I'm working on rock work over at the back of the exhibit, so that's probably why I disappear. Yeah, it does look pretty cool. I ended up throwing in all these rock walls just because I felt like it would kind of make the building feel a bit more natural. And, you know, it's very much a thing you see in exhibits like this, indoor ones. You know, they'll try and mask the fact that it's a giant building by throwing a lot of like fake rocks at the back of the enclosure and stuff like that. I didn't want to do all of that because I'd already spent like 2 hours on this build and didn't really feel like spending any more on it. So I was like, yeah, we're kind of done here. But yeah. Anyway, I think the rest of this is just me throwing in plants, decorations, all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm gonna let the rest of this time lapse play out, and then I'll catch back up with you guys to show off the final build. So I'll see you in just a second. All right, everyone, here we are with the final build. Now, the exterior's not really had any work done on it because I just chose not to, because it's gonna take a very long time to detail all of the out parts, and yeah, not really about that noise right now, you know. kind of busy with other stuff as usual, but yeah. Also, you'll notice there's no shaders on. It's because I watched the time lapses back already. I haven't recorded the voiceover for them, but I've watched them back. And yeah, you can't, it does not look as good with shaders on. And I feel like that's just the thing with indoor builds. They look way better without them because, well, just because of lighting and mostly. And they're always way too, I don't know, dark, I guess, when you use shaders, and that's always a bit disappointing because, you know, it's like I do rather like having shaders on. But anyway, if we quickly fly out this way, because I don't think I put a roof over this yet. Nope, I didn't. Good job, me. Yeah, we can fly in here real quick, and I don't know. I really like how this looks. I think this is kind of an interesting build. Like I said, this was kind of the idea was basically taken from Ave, and then some of the interior decisions were taken from Loorikeet. Again, go check both of them out. They're very good, very, very good channels. Lots of good content. But yeah, anyway. Yeah. Looks really cool. I really like it. I also took obviously a bit of inspiration from some of the Arctic exhibits we've done in the past, basically with these big fans all over the place. I think I integrated them way better this time around though. Mostly just because the building's way larger, so they fit a bit easier, which is pretty nice. I don't remember. Oh, I didn't throw any over here. But I like having all these little fans like stuck in the rockworks like this. Like, I don't know, I feel like that looks really cool. Very zoo-like. I wasn't able to put as much snow in as I wanted to, unfortunately. Well, when I say snow, I mean like the snowdrift stuff. Mostly just because to actually light this thing up, I needed to use sea lanterns or glowstone, both of which melt everything, which is really, really annoying. So, you know, because, you know, like I need a mixture of it being lit, but also it, you know, having the snow, because the snow is what looks cool and it's what gives it a bunch of character. And I was very limited in just how much of this I could actually do. I mean, I can throw a bit more in like here. Man, these guys are loud. The mammoths do look fantastic, by the way, and I should probably show that off in a second, but yeah. Like, look at that. That is a really good mammoth model. Looks pretty awesome. Its eyes, I think it's just this one in particular, but their eyes look a little bit terrifying. Like, I'm not necessarily they look very, I don't know. They remind me of rodent eyes, and to see a rodent eye on an elephant is really kind of creeping me out. It's really weird. But yeah, anyway, that's basically it. Let me know what you guys think of the exhibit down below. I'd love to hear some feedback on this. I think this turned out pretty well. It was originally gonna have the elasmotherium as well, but I just decided not to. Mostly because, I don't know, I guess we can throw the elasmotherium somewhere else around here if I still want to do that one. But yeah, we are starting to, like I've mentioned before, we're starting to come towards the end of this series. I have a few more smaller exhibits kind of planned. Don't know if those are going to be individual episodes or a big episode where we do tons of mini exhibits. And then one or two big ones, and then I think we're going to end this off, and I'll let you guys probably download the world and enjoy it for yourselves. So yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to that. And I think that's really all I have for today. So thank you all for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed, and until next time, guys, see ya.